بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم قال الله تعالى في كتابه المجيد الفرقان الحميد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب وأن الله لا يهدي كيد الخائنين صدق الله العظيم. So we were in the discussion of the king after he had sent the minister or he had sent his advisor or his messenger to Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam that وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ, bring this man to me, bring Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam to me. So he says, go back and ask those women what was their matter. And then eventually after asking the masses and they pronounced the truth, then the minister's wife herself, she says, الآن حسحس الحق, oh the truth has become exposed. أنا راودته عن نفسه, I was the one who seduced him. وإنه لمن الصادقين, and he was from amongst the truthful people. So the matter has become clear, the matter has become exposed, and she confessed herself. Now, when Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam asked for this confession before exiting from the jail, outwardly, apparently, externally, it can look like somewhat of him pontifying himself that, oh, I was too good to have committed such a crime. I'm better than these people. I would not have committed such a crime. Put my accolades on the wall, put my accomplishments on the wall. Let me pontify and exonerate myself. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the end of the 12th juz, this is the last verse of the 12th juz, and the beginning of the 13th juz, the first verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expounds on the statement of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam that shows and testifies his modesty, his morality, his integrity, and his humility. ذَلِكَ لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. Don't misinterpret the matter. I'm not trying to pontify myself, exalt myself, exonerate myself, abrogate myself. I'm only asking for clarity on the matter. لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ, so that the minister himself, itfir or qitfir, he can know and he can be certain and testify on the fact, أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ, I did not betray him in his absence. I did not betray him in his absence. He was good to me. He was kind to me. He was gracious to me. He welcomed me into his house. He fed me, clothed me, etc. أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ, I did not betray the minister. And number two, وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. It should not be that the people look at me exit from the jail and they look at me as a role model, as a figure in the community, and now in the future, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the means of the king, will put him on a pedestal in the lands of Egypt. The people should not come to the conclusion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow the plan, the plotting, and the cunningness of those betrayers to ever prosper. They should not say that, oh, this person committed this immoral act and he committed this sin, but yet in the end things turned out well for him. We too can commit sins and we too can commit immoralities, and in the end it will also be fine for us. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never allow the plan and the plot of the ones who betray to ever come into fruition, to ever prosper. Today we live in a world where when a person is being inaugurated into office or he's coming into a position of power, he's coming with dark clouds behind him. He's coming with closets full of skeletons. You know, it's sad to say that nowadays maybe a person is being inaugurated into office or he's trying to get himself situated in places of power, and the reason why it won't work out for him, he's too honest. He's too moral. His ethics are too high. No, we need a guy who can cheat the system. We need a guy who can lie. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never allow these things to come into fruition, to prosper. The Mufassirun write that this is why it's imperative. They're emphatic. They emphasize the point that a person who is a leader in the community, be it religious or otherwise, or he is a du'at ila al-khair, or he is a person who is looked at as a role model, a figure, when he is accused of things, it is imperative that he clears the air so that people don't have a stench around him. He doesn't carry this aroma around him, this shadow around him. Clear up the doubts. Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he cleared up the doubts. And this was the end of the 12th juz, but the discussion continues in the first verse of the 13th juz. This is how humble and modest and moral the Anbiya alayhim min Allah as-salatu wa taslimat are. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. I'm not exonerating myself. I am not excluding myself. I.e., لَسْتُ بِقَائِلٍ أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُمْ. I'm not one to say that I'm any better than them. I'm not trying to excuse myself from the situation. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي بَرَّأَ يُبَرِّئُ تَبْرِيء. I'm not exonerating myself. إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. Because surely the soul is ever inviting towards evil. أَمَّارَةٌ أي كَثِيرُ الْأَمْرِ. It is ever inviting, ever seducing, ever enticing towards evil. Ammara. Not to be confused with the word ammara. Ammara, kathirul amr, ever inviting. Ammara, or you have in the verse, إِنَّمَا يَعْمُرُ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ, the one who constructs, builds, establishes. You have the name Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu. I'm just getting this flash. So one day, the companions radiallahu anhum came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They said, "Inna Ammaran qad kafar. Inna Ammaran qad kafar." Hey, this companion of yours, Ammar ibn Yasir radiallahu anhu, he has become apostate. He has left the fold of Islam. Prophet ﷺ said, "What? Kalla. This could never take place. Never could this occur. اختلط الإيمان بلحمه ودمه. Iman has mixed with his anatomy, his bones, and his flesh. Iman is running through his blood. What a beautiful accolade that he could put on his wall. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger testified to his Iman. But what had happened was, he had been snatched up by some of the Quraysh of Mecca. And they had put the sword to his neck and said, "Denounce Islam, and if you denounce Islam, we will let you live." So he uttered a statement of kufr just to appease the people so he could save his life. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exonerated him in the Quran. "Man kafara billahi min ba'di imanihi." And then at the end of the verse, فَعَلَيْهِمْ غَضَبٌ. But in the middle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes a statement, إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. The one who has been forced, and Mufassirun write, forced by a person who has the strength to execute that, order, be it life-threatening or organ-threatening. وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. But his heart is ever convicted in the faith of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he is excused. He said, Ammar ibn Yasir, Kalla, never could he become a kafir, never could he become a apostate. Sometimes the Prophet ﷺ would be walking past and he would see the family of Yasir, Ammar ibn Yasir, his parents being persecuted. He would say, Sabran ya ahla Yasir, Sabran ya ahla Yasir, Maw'idukum al-Jannah, surely your reward is Jannah. So this is Ammar. So I was differentiating between Ammar and Ammara. He says, Inna an-nafsa la'ammaratun bis-su'. The soul, kathirul amr, mubalagha. It's ever inviting towards evil. The Mufassirun write that while we had discussed previously that surely the devil has an influence, an indoctrination, and his own flavor in every vice, sin, and wrong, who was the one who made the devil disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? كان من الجن ففسق عن أمر ربه أبى واستكبر وكان من الكافرين. At the time when he was put to the test, who gave the devil the whisper to make him the devil? And the Mufassirun write, it was the nafs, it was the soul. Don't belittle what the person's soul can do. إذا خلوت بريبة في ظلمة والنفس داعية إلى الطغيان فاستحي من نظر الإله وقل لها إن الذي خلق الظلام يراني. What this nafs can do. The Prophet ﷺ, he asked his companions, ما رأيكم ما تقولون عن صديق? What's your opinion? What do you have to say regarding a friend? The more you suppress him, the more you limit him, the more you restrict him, the better a friend he becomes. And what do you say about a friend? The kinder you are towards him, the more compassionate and lenient and foregoing you are with him, the more rebellious he becomes. They said, of course, to such a friend, restrict him, limit him, contain him. The Prophet ﷺ said, exactly is this your nafs to you. The more you let him eat, the more he'll enjoy. The further along the road he'll go, the darker in the ocean he'll dive. The more you restrict him and tighten him and limit him, the better it is for the nafs, the better it is for you yourself. So number one, in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala labels 3 different types of souls, or 3 different types of personalities, or a variation of the same. Number one, inna nafsa la ammara, kathirul amr. That nafs that's ever inviting you towards evil. Number two, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears, which means He puts a lot of emphasis on this. لا أقسم بيوم القيامة ولا أقسم بالنفس اللوامة. Lama yalumu, to admonish, to chastise, to rebuke. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath and a qasam. It shows the importance of such. وَلَا أُقْسِمُ بِالنَّفْسِ اللَّوَّامَةِ. That soul that admonishes, it rebukes, it chastises. When the person wants to commit any sin, it reminds him to stay away from that sin. This is nafsul lawama. And in the end, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the third and the best, the pinnacle, which all the Anbiya alayhim min Allahi as-salatu wa taslimat were blessed with, was a nafsul mutma'inna, a soul that's only enjoyment, ecstaticness, and happiness is in the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Inna nafsa la ammaratun bisu. The nafs, it's ever inviting towards evil. Illa ma rahima rabbi. Except for the one or the soul that my Lord has mercy on. Inna rabbi ghafurur rahim. Verily my Lord is ever merciful, ever forgiving. Again, the humility of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. Ma rahima rabbi is who? It is the Anbiya. And who is from amongst the Anbiya? It is Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. But instead, he opted for a phrase which was general instead of limiting and including and excluding himself. That, oh, I'm better than you. Illa ana, illa ma rahima rabbi. He took the general approach so that he could once again display levels of humility and modesty. So this kind of concludes Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam's leaving from the jail and this discussion between him and the women. There is the opinion. The one that I gave is the favorable opinion. But there is a second opinion that these two verses, the ending of the 12th juz and the beginning of the 13th juz, is actually the statement and the maqula of the woman. So she said, she was talking and she said, الآن حسحس الحق أنا راودته عن نفسي وإنه لمن الصادقين. And she continued from there into these two statements as well. So she said, I seduced him and he was honest. ذلك ليعلم أني لم أخنه بالغيب. I'm only confessing at this point and I'm only confessing at this stage. Why? So that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam can know that I did not betray him in his absence. How did she not betray him in his absence? While he's sitting there in the jail, I will confess to the amazing personality of Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam now. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not let the plan and the cunningness of those who betray prosper. I seduced him, and because I had made that mistake many, many years ago, today is being shunned to light and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will expose. Another opinion, ذَلِكَ لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. I'm only confessing this now so my husband can know I did not betray him in his absence. But she did betray him in his absence. Meaning, even though I seduced Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, the act itself was never committed. The top of the mountain was never reached. Zina itself and fornication was never executed. ذَلِكَ لِيَعْلَمَ أَنِّي لَمْ أَخُنْهُ بِالْغَيْبِ. I'm confessing so my husband can know that I did not betray him in his absence and the deed itself was not exactly executed and committed. وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. And even though I'm confessing now, I'm not trying to exonerate myself. I'm not trying to belittle the crime that I committed. I'm not trying to say that I did anything good just because I'm confessing now. I know the wrong that I committed. I am establishing and confessing to the crime that I committed. وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي. I'm not trying to say that I didn't do wrong. But really, إِنَّ النَّفْسَ لَأَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ. The nafs, it's inviting towards evil. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. Except for Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. إِنَّ رَبِّي غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Verily, my Lord is ever forgiving, ever merciful. The Mufassirun now also have to open up the new chapter because she said, وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي كَيْدَ الْخَائِنِينَ. So if it is the maqula and the statement of her, then did she have some understanding of who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is? That is a discussion that they open up in this verse. Nevertheless, after this statement, this discussion, this assembly, the interest of the king has ever skyrocketed. وقال الملك ائتوني به وقال الملك ائتوني به استخلصه لنفسي. Go and bring that man to me. استخلصه لنفسي. I will make him a sincere, close advisor to myself. The Mufassirun write that this is the second time the king is now asking for Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, because he asked for him previously. وَقَالَ الْمَلِكُ ائْتُونِي بِهِ, and the king said, bring him to me. But even though the wording in the two verses in this is the same, the emphasis is different, and it's at a much higher, stronger degree in the second verse. وقال الملك ائتوني به, bring him to me. فلما جاءه الرسول قال ارجع, and so on and so forth. وقال الملك ائتوني به استخلصه لنفسي, bring that man to me. And what makes it stronger and more emphasized? Now I'm going to give you the reason why he should be brought. استخلصه لنفسي, I will make him a sincere advisor to myself. فلما كلمه قال إنك اليوم لدينا مكين أمين. When the discourse happens, then he says to him, إنك اليوم, verily today, لدينا مكين أمين, in our midst, in our community, you are well established, well tested, well honored, well dignified, well bestowed with trust and honest. The Mufassirun write, Ibn Kathir, other historians also suggest that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he took a ghusl, he made a bath, he assembled the whole congregation, they converged, and then he made dua for them, and he supplicated for them, and he advised them with clear cut, kind words of nasiha. And it was a very emotional moment for all those involved. For even the ones he was leaving from the jail, because they had a brother in Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, and now even the community that he was addressing were also overwhelmed and taken aback by this beautiful address and his personality. إِنَّكَ الْيَوْمَ لَدَيْنَا مَكِينٌ أَمِينٌ. Today you are established, today you are trusted and honored. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to understand and tawfiq. واخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت، وعافنا فيمن عافيت، وتولنا فيمن توليت، وبارك لنا فيما اعطيت، وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت، فانك تقضي ولا يقضى عليك، انه لا يعز من عاديت ولا يذل من واليت، تباركت ربنا وتعاليت. نستغفرك ربنا ونتوب اليك. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واهد الناس جميعا، واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. اللهم احسن ختامنا وتوفنا على كلمه لا اله الا الله محمد رسول الله. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا، وهب لنا من لدنك رحمه انك انت الوهاب. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. آمين يا رب العالمين.